During lockdown, we are joined by Aileen Lamb, Managing Director of news media who own Eat Out. A very good evening to you, Aileen, and thank you so very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Good evening to you as well. Thank you very much for having us.
Before we talk about the relief fund, I'd really like to talk about the obvious sort of impact that, the lockdown and closing of restaurants has had really on the restaurant business. I mean, we're already starting to hear of some of our family favorite restaurants that might not even recover after lockdown. Can you paint for us a picture of just really how bad it is for the restaurant industry?
Sure, Flo. It's really not good. I think that, the restaurant industry has been severely and immediately impacted by the lockdown. The margins of restaurants are very small, and it doesn't take long for the impact to be as severe as it's become. So there are many, many restaurants that have closed their doors permanently. We're hearing about new ones each and every single day.
There's this relief fund, of course, that will be made available to support the restaurant industry. Should this not be able to assist some of these restaurants that are sort of drowning at this time?
Absolutely. That's entirely the point. So I think Eat Out has been working with the restaurant industry in South Africa for 22 years, and we've been around for the good times, and the bad times have really come. And this fund's job is 100% aimed at mobilizing this industry. It's also doing a beautiful secondary job of feeding the impoverished communities. So I think that, this is a way for us to help these restaurants get back on their feet and do something incredibly positive at this time.
Now, we have heard that, of course, as we move on to stage 4 of the lockdown, that restaurants may then be permitted to do deliveries. But again, this highlights, the sort of inequalities or injustices, I suppose, that remain in the country. Because, when we're looking at delivery options, they're mostly directed at suburban areas. I mean, if I'm visiting my family, for instance, in Diepkloof, there's no way, a restaurant will come out to Soweto to come and deliver. Sure. Are the restaurants not maybe looking at things like that maybe will be able to help them financially in order to, in terms of expanding where it is that they'll be delivering and not just keep it to certain areas?
Absolutely. I think that the news today is good news. It's good news for the industry, and I think we need that as an economy. We need to get these guys back up and working again. Our plea really is to facilitate that as well. We're not working with them with regards to deliveries, but we think it's fantastic that they're doing that, and we hope that they'll utilize a small part of their kitchen in possibly the down hours when they can't do deliveries, and help this fund and help us to feed the impoverished communities through the skills that they have. They are, very skilled chefs and cooks, empty restaurants. There's a solution here.
Yeah. They, of course, have to adhere to very, very strict sort of regulations, as, of course, we are still in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. How sure are we that the restaurants will indeed adhere to those regulations? I mean, I imagine that by the time that people can receive deliveries, the phones will be going off the hook, and they will then be tempted to sort of, hire more staff. And then, of course, we're dealing with another problem altogether where, our food might then be, endangered, it has been in the wrong hands, for example. So how sure are we of the fact that, they will then remain, adhering to the regulations that have been given by government?
I think what I will say, and I don't necessarily have the answer to that, but what I will say is the restaurants that I've spoken to and the people that are trying to mobilize again are taking the rules incredibly seriously. Their living is on the line. The staff that work with them, their living is on the line. So they really just want to be mobilized so that they're able to do something and to raise some level of funding for themselves, to actually pay their rent and keep the lights on and that kind of thing. So yes, I do believe they are going to stick to the rules and have PPE in the kitchens. Already in the relief kitchens, this is taking place, where you can see in the video you're showing right now, everyone is completely covered.
Yeah.
Your faces are covered, hands are covered, etc. So yes, I think it's a good move.
I imagine, like the liquor industry and the tobacco industry, there have been some sort of presentations made to government by the restaurant industry. What I want to ask in particular is about the employees. Many of the employees are coming from, different areas where they might have to, travel by taxi. And so this sort of affects a lot of other issues. Has the restaurant business maybe also looked at how their employees will be able to travel safely from home to work?
Yes, many of the restaurants that we've spoken to that are currently working in a relief way have come up with very robust solutions to get their staff to the kitchens to be able to contribute and to be able to earn. So yes, I mean, it is a challenge. It's without question a challenge, but there's many people working together very hard. We're working with Community Chest right now. That's our partner for this fund, and they're a fantastic partner to have with regards to their connections. And how that they're connecting the food with the actual impoverished communities themselves.
Yeah. All right, Aileen, a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving us that information. And of course, we hope that this all sort of goes smoothly as the restaurants are able to slowly get back in business. We appreciate your time. Thank you. All right, that's Aileen Lamb, Managing Director of News Media, the owners of Eat Out. Let's take a short break.